And welcome back. Today we read just two chapters, chapters 8 and 9 of 2 Chronicles, and these recount to us the second half of the reign of King Solomon. So once he had completed building the temple and his own house, which together took about 20 years, he reigned for a further 20 years over all Israel, and it's those years that we see recounted in the verses we read today. And in chapter 8 we read that, verse 15, they did not depart from the commandment of the king to the priests and the Levites, and that would have been concerning how all the divisions of the Levites were to operate, the musicians and all the stuff we saw David command. They didn't depart from that concerning any matter or concerning the treasuries. Now, all the work of Solomon was well ordered from the day of the foundation of the house of the Lord until it was finished. So the house of the Lord was completed. Then from there we read of the great prosperity and peace of the realm of Solomon. Matthew Henry, whom I'm going to read to you now from, he comments that many kings through history have been made famous because of their wars, but this King Solomon, the greatest of all kings who's ever lived, but for the Lord Jesus Christ, is famed because of the great peace of his realm, a peace purchased by the bloodshed by his father David. So 20 years of peace ensue, and man, Solomon is made famous. Kings from all over the world are coming to see him and to hear his wisdom. And obviously the Queen of Sheba is the quintessential example of such a visit. We also read of the wealth of his kingdom, of the business that they did with other realms, the gold that he brought in, the horses, the apes, the trading, the remarkable prosperity of this man and of his kingdom. And this is what Matthew Henry has to say about that. In the light of all of this prosperity, he says, those who honor God, God will honor. Solomon had greatly honored God in building, beautifying, and dedicating the temple. All his wisdom and all his wealth were employed for the making of that, the temple, a consummate piece. And now God made his wisdom and wealth to redound greatly to his reputation. The way to have both the credit and comfort of all of our endowments and all our enjoyments is to consecrate them to God and use them for him. And I want to add something to Matthew Henry's commentary there. But what he is saying is that whatever gifts God has given you, whatever enjoyments he has allowed you, whatever wealth he has granted you, the way for you to get the credit for that in your reputation and the enjoyment of it, as Solomon did have for the next 20 years of his reign, is to use what God has given you for the serving of the kingdom, for the serving of God. Use your gifts to build up the kingdom, is what he's saying. And then God will pour back into your own life the blessings and enjoyment and credit for your gifts. If you honor God, God will honor you. Now, this is what I want to add. When Solomon stopped doing that very thing, that's when he backslid. It's often caught my attention that as we read the account of Solomon, he is a steadfast, faithful, righteous king with an incredibly intimate relationship with God. I mean, God is appearing to Solomon in dreams, and again, after the temple is built, God appears to him and says to him, now, if you will continue to walk before me in humility and righteousness, I will establish your kingdom. I mean, he has this amazing relationship with God. And yet, when he finished the temple and building his own house and all the great works to which he was supposed to give himself were done, and he now goes into this time of just enjoying the peace of his kingdom and the wealth that God has given him, it's then that he backslides. Here's my encouragement to you today. If you find yourself in a place in life where, like Solomon, you feel like the great work of your life has been completed, and you've done what God has commanded you to do, tremble, my friend, that you are in danger of backsliding. The moment you feel as if some great work for God and for the kingdom is not yet before you, that you still have some goal, some purpose in life, some way to serve God, some calling upon your life, some great thing with which you can glorify Him, some way for you to use your gift, your talents, your wealth to serve Him still, you are in great danger of backsliding. And this, to me, is the great calamity that befell Solomon, that his whole life had been set up for him by David his father, that the great work of his life was going to be to build the temple. And he did it so faithfully and so well, yet once it was built, it was almost like he was left without a cause in his life, without something to give himself to. And he backslid. And so, whatever it is, my friend, that you set before you as a way to serve Jesus your King, find something, even if it is that you're in your older years and the thing that you decide you're going to give yourself to is the discipling of your grandchildren, perhaps. Maybe you want to set that before you as the great work which you can still be praying for on a daily basis. You can still be begging God for the salvation of your grandchildren and asking Him, God, how can I play my role to see them come to know the Lord and to see them discipled in the things of God? How can I play my role in the lives of my grandchildren? Maybe that's the thing that you set before you as a great and lofty goal, which you're going to beg God for and strive towards. It will serve you well. You know, so often, those of us who are kind of goal-orientated, we feel dissatisfied and frustrated when we still have some great work in front of us and we just want to get it done and we are begging God for it to be done and we want to enter into a time of leisure and peace and knowing that the things that we've set ourselves as goals we've achieved. Yes, that's good, and of course we want to achieve our goals, but don't be so disappointed if God continually has something before you that you are always striving towards, and the frustration of not achieving that goal is with you. But don't feel too bad about that, because it might just be that very thing, that unfulfilled goal, that thing that you feel dissatisfied about, that you're still calling on God for. It might be that very thing that stops you from backsliding. And that's in fact what we see in the life of David. You know, his great work was never done. He was called by God to bring peace to a realm of war and to set up the completion of the goal, which would be done by his son Solomon, the building of the temple. And so David never got to the point where his job was done. He was still making things ready until the day of his death, and then passing on that baton to his son. You know, in many ways, it's better to live a life where you never get to see the fulfillment of all of your dreams and hopes, and you get to pass the baton on to your children and die still striving. It's almost better that way, because you have a better chance of living life, running the race, keeping the faith, and dying in the faith and faithful to your God, than you will if you just achieve all your goals and then you settle back into a life of leisure, which is what we all want. And so, I don't know, you may take something out of this morning as I've been rambling about these thoughts, and I pray that you will. And if I can exhort you to something, it would be this, that you should always have some great thing set before you in which you can be using your gifts and talents to try to bring glory to Jesus and to build up the kingdom. And as long as that work is before you, it can settle you, it can establish you so that you don't lose your faith and slide into unrighteousness and carnality. So God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.